Hey there guys, welcome to Dinos World. Today is the day of reckoning because today I am here at BMW Motorrad Delhi and I am here to bring you the first ride review of the BMW G310R as well as the BMW G310GS. First will be the Street Fighter and then this will be followed by the Adventure Tourer model. So back-to-back videos lined up right here at Dinos World. Without further ado, let's get started with this video. The G310R is a huge move by BMW. Now, who would have ever thought that an ultra premium brand like BMW Motorrad would offer something in the affordable range? So this is like a dream come true for all the BMW Motorrad fanboys, which would include pretty much all of us because who isn't a fan of BMW? Now, my review of the G310GS will follow this video, so please be sure to check that out as well. In this video, I'll be sharing all you need to know about the G310R. I'll talk about its various features, specs, list out the differences between the G310R and the G310GS, and I'll also share my first ride impression, telling you guys as to what kind of a ride feel that this bike has on offer. First, let's start out with the differences between the G310R and the G310GS. Now, the engine specs along with the power and torque remain absolutely identical for both. However, the GS does get the necessary tweaks to render it as a proper adventure tourer. We get long travel suspension for the GS with a suspension travel of 180 mm at both ends. The 310R on the other hand gets 140 mm of suspension travel up front and 131 mm of suspension travel at the back. The GS also gets a longer wheelbase compared to the 310R at 1420 mm compared to 1374 mm of the 310R. The shorter wheelbase of the 310R renders the bike easily flickable and maneuverable in city traffic. It also helps the bike tackle corners easily should you prefer to take it for track day events. The longer wheelbase of the GS on the other hand offers better stability at higher speeds, and rightly so because the GS is primarily a touring machine which will be ridden mostly on the highways. Dimensions wise, the overall length of the GS is up by 70 mm, width is up by 60 mm and the overall height is up by 150 mm. The 310R is nice and compact, pretty much tailor-made to thrive in urban conditions. The seat height is taller for the GS as expected at 835 mm, whereas for the 310R it is 785 mm, ideally set to be comfortable for the average height riders. The GS with the added fairing and the aforementioned changes also ends up being 11 kgs heavier than its Street Fighter counterpart. The ground clearance is 180 mm for the GS, whereas for the 310R it is 165 mm. The ABS on the GS is switchable, which means you can turn it off, but the ABS on the 310R is not switchable. Also, the GS gets a larger 19-inch wheel with a 110/80 tire up front compared to a 17-inch wheel with a 110/70 tire up front for the 310R. Whereas at the back, the GS gets a 17-inch wheel with a 150/70 tire, but the 310R gets a 17-inch wheel with a 150/60 tire. Also, we get proper off-roading block pattern tires for the GS as opposed to the regular street tires for the 310R. Surprisingly, the tank capacity remains the same for both at 11 liters, although I would have preferred the GS to offer at least an 18-liter tank because it's actually meant to be a hardcore tourer. Also, the handlebar on the GS is slightly wider than that of the 310R, which helps us maneuver and steer the massive GS with utmost ease. Rest everything else like the brakes, the suspension, etc. remain the same for both the bikes. Now, talking about the design of the 310R, I love the design. It looks different, contemporary, modern and beautiful. The hallmark of a great design is that the bike should look appealing and attractive from any angle you choose to look at it from, and that's exactly the case with the 310R. It looks perfectly sculpted. The muscular fuel tank oozes the macho Street Fighter feel. The compact looking headlamp looks nice and fresh. We then have the neatly carved out tank panels and the perfectly laid out rear panels, while the meticulously encapsulated tail lamp completes a design that would appeal universally to people of all age groups. The cast aluminium alloy wheels get a fresh new design that lend the bike a distinguished look in this segment. The gold anodized front forks look super premium. Even the detailing on the aluminium swing arm adds on to the visual appeal. The stainless steel exhaust looks perfectly proportionate and complements the rest of the design, although I feel they shouldn't have shared this exhaust with the 310RR because that takes away the exclusivity factor. The seat is neatly laid out, although I feel it could have offered a little more space for the rider to move around. The handlebar is ideally positioned and I love the BMW detailing on it, as you can see here. The switches are neatly laid out. We do get an engine kill switch and a high beam flasher. The Speedo Console is a decent one. It can never match the full color TFT display of the Duke 390, but still it is a decent display with the readouts including a speedometer, odometer, trip meter, tachometer, clock, gear position indicator, fuel gauge, range, fuel consumption, engine temperature and average speed. The fonts are quite legible as they are, but while riding under direct sunlight, viewing the dash info is slightly difficult. The overall fit and finish and build quality is quite good, which is what one would expect when the branding reads BMW, but the engine cowl appears to be of below average quality, and I really hope BMW considers revising that because that is the only black spot in this otherwise well put together motorcycle. Talking about the powertrain, powering the BMW G310R is a 4-stroke single-cylinder liquid-cooled fuel-injected 313cc DOHC engine that puts out a max power of 34 bhp at 9,500 rpm and a max torque of 28 Newton meters at 7,500 rpm. We get a 6-speed gearbox. Taking the bike out for a spin, the bike feels incredibly compact and lightweight thanks to a wet weight of a mere 158.5 kgs, which lends the bike a superb power to weight ratio. The seating ergonomics, as I mentioned before, is well sorted out, but the only glitch is that there is not adequate room for the rider to move around. It's almost like the seat kind of ties you into place. The handlebar is positioned closer to the rider and is also shorter on the 310R compared to that of the GS, thereby allowing you to steer through the traffic effortlessly. The rider foot pegs are ideally set as well. They are just slightly rear set to offer perfect balance and control. The reverse inclined engine also contributes towards the mass centralization concept. So this, along with the steel trellis frame, the rear monoshock and the aluminium swing arm, lend the bike superb handling characteristics such that the bike listens to you and behaves the way exactly how you want it to. It's an extremely fun to ride machine, easy to flick around, has enough juice on board to make those quick overtakes, and offers pretty much everything you hope for from a street smart city slinger. The clutch feel is light despite the bike not getting a slipper clutch. The throttle response is quite immediate without any latency. The throttle rotation is also light and easygoing on your palms and wrists. The acceleration is quite good, although it misses out on that intense feel that the Duke has on offer. While the ride feel of the Duke can be related to the Punisher with a brutal and ruthless power delivery, the BMW is more calculated and rhythmic and systematic in its approach, like the Daredevil. By the way, if you want to know what I mean, please watch the Daredevil and the Punisher series on Netflix. I'm sure you won't regret that. Overall, while the Duke scores more on intensity and the adrenaline rush feel, the BMW scores in terms of fun factor and riding pleasure. Talking about the vibrations, there is a slight buzz that you feel on the foot pegs and the fuel tank, but you are so caught up enjoying the ride that you don't notice them all that much, nor are they all that bothersome. Talking about the brakes, we get a single 300mm disc up front with radially mounted 4-piston fixed calipers. At the back, we get a single 240mm disc with single piston floating caliper. The brakes are quite good and confidence inspiring. The ABS intervention is quite smooth and accurate without any jerks or jitteriness. We do get dual channel ABS as standard, but unlike the GS, the ABS on the 310R cannot be switched off. Talking about the suspension, we get chunky 41mm upside down forks up front and a monoshock at the back. Unlike that of the GS, which gets a softer setting, the suspension on the 310R is ideally set to offer a comfortable ride over the pothole-ridden city streets, and at the same time it supports the chassis really well at higher speeds too. The handling on the bike is very impressive. The bike goes exactly in the direction you want it to, and it holds the line perfectly while cornering as well. Talking about the wheel wheels and tires, we get Michelin tires and 17-inch wheels. We get a 110/70 tire up front and a 150/60 tire at the back. It was constantly raining throughout the day in Delhi when I tested this bike, and there was not even a single instance of the tires skidding through the course of my ride, which was truly impressive. Mileage wise, there is no official claim as such, but I am told that we can expect anything close to 28 to 30 kmpl from this bike, and please note that these figures may vary as per riding style and riding conditions. Price ex-showroom Delhi for the BMW G310R is Rs 2.99 lakhs. Now coming to my final verdict, is the G310R worth it? Well, there's two ways to look at it. If you look at it from a value for money perspective, then you do have better options like the Duke 390 and the RC390, which offer better features, better equipment, more power, and pretty much more of everything compared to the BMW twins. Now, the second way to look at it is about owning a BMW. If you want to own a BMW bike other than these two entry-level models, you would have to shell out more than ₹1,000,000. So these are the only two bikes that have been made accessible to everyone while giving you the opportunity of taking pride in owning a BMW bike. Plus, another major point to note here is the service interval for the G310R and the GS. The service interval post the first service at 1000 kilometers is once in 10,000 kilometers for the BMW twins when compared to 7,500 kilometers for the KTM bikes. So maintenance wise, the BMW bikes seem to make more sense. Also, the 310R is a very good bike just the way it is. It's only that when you compare it with the likes of the Duke or even the newly launched Ninja 300 that it starts feeling a little bit overpriced. But as I mentioned earlier in my reaction video, Apple never lowers the price of their products. You've got to pay that extra premium to own an iPhone, though you have other phones that offer better performance and features while also carrying a lower price tag. Similarly, if you want to own a BMW, then you've got to stretch your budget a bit further to become a part of the prestigious BMW Motorrad family. For booking details or any other query, you can call the number mentioned in the description portion below. Well, that's pretty much it for now. I just hope you found this video useful. Until next time, this is Dino saying ciao, and watch out for my upcoming review of the G310GS. Take care, God bless, and ride safe.